Hello and welcome once again to Superconnectivity. I'm your host, Charlie, the Professor Esser, and with me as always is...
Phil, Filmy, and Parrish.
Hey, Phil. So glad to have you. Ladies and gentlemen, listeners of all ages, those who fall somewhere in between, today is Listener Mail Day, because we have two awesome letters from two awesome listeners. Stockton Piner and
Kenneth Smyson.
Kenneth Smyson. Oh, I can't believe I blanked on Kenneth's name for a second there. Okay, Phil, would you like to do the honors?
Yes. I guess we'll start with Stockton Piner, who on the All New Marvel Roundup sent us his review of Inhumans vs. X-Men number 0. So here's his general thoughts on Inhumans vs. X-Men. He said, I wanted to write in to share some of my thoughts on the Inhumans and X-Men, the way Marvel's handling of these characters has been perceived in the fandom, and how they are reflective of the comic book community. As you know, I am a big fan of the Inhumans, and I grew up loving the X-Men, so this whole conflict is very frustrating for me, and not because of what is happening in the comics themselves, but the way fans are reacting. I understand that people love the X-Men, but I do not get all of the animosity I see towards the Inhumans. I've never bought into this notion that Marvel was trying to bury the X-Men and raise up the Inhumans in their place. Granted, there is the issue of movie rights, which I am sure is a factor in the Inhumans getting a considerable push, but that only makes sense. There is a rich mythology with the Inhumans and many stories that have yet to be explored. Black Bolt, Medusa, Karnak, and the rest of the classic roster are such incredible characters that are both visually striking and full of depth. The diversity of appearance and power sets is so much fun. Where the X-Men say, we have a woman who can control the weather and another who can shapeshift. The Inhumans can say, that's cute, we have those. Also a giant teleporting dog and a guy who turned into a door. If there's the possibility of using these characters in other media, it seems reasonable that Marvel would want their fan base to become more familiar with them. I know there was a time when nearly every new character with powers was a mutant. This was convenient for writers because it allowed them to bypass the origin story and jump right into introducing a new character with a cool power set. The device of the Terrigen Cloud is allowing writers to do something similar, but in this case they are rapidly expanding the roster of Inhumans, which had been fairly static for 40 years or so. This gives Marvel new toys they can play with across all forms of media, with characters such as Reader, Lash, Inferno, Grid, and two of the most important Marvel creations of the past decade, Kamala Khan, aka Captain Marvel, and Lunella Lafayette, aka Moon Girl. The X-Men are one of the true powerhouses of the Marvel Universe. The X-Books have always attracted top-tier talent. Creative talent and mutant characters have been a main focus of the Marvel Universe since their inception. They have become the old guard with some of the most popular characters such as Wolverine, Cyclops, Storm, and Magneto. They have a long, complicated continuity that has seen them face alien empires, demons, politicians, and even an intergalactic reality TV producer. Currently, the Mpox, which is caused by exposure to the Terrigen Mist, is threatening the future mutant life. The fact that the chemical which awakens the dormant Inhuman gene and grants abilities to those is also fatal to people with the X gene has led to speculation that Marvel might go as far as to kill off the X-Men and allow Inhumans to take their place. The reasoning for this is always connected to the movie rights, which I believe to be irrelevant to this discussion. One thing that has been constant throughout the history of the X-Men has been hardship. Whether it's the Legacy Virus, No More Mutants, Apocalypse, or the Sentinel program, total eradication has never been too far away for mutants, yet they still remain and persevere and will continue to do so. This is just the latest chapter in Marvel's never-ending parade of misery for mutant kind. Wait, I lost my place. The X-Men are simply too interesting and too popular to be placed on the shelf no matter who holds the movie rights. Besides, I'm willing to bet that Marvel views their relationship with Fox more as the movies are advertisements for the comics than the reverse. Bottom line, Marvel's not going to drop a book that sells well, period. I see this whole conflict as a commentary on the current state of comic fandom. Comic books have always been a home for people who feel different, isolated, powerless, ridiculed, etc. This is why the X-Men titles have resonated with fans for so long. The fact that mutants are feared and hated simply for being born different is so relatable to anyone who has felt ostracized or discriminated against. Because of this connection, the X-Men have come to represent the long-term reader. The Inhumans, on the other hand, after many years hanging around the fringe of the Marvel Universe, have recently stepped up and taken on a larger role. They are no longer on the outside looking in, and now more than ever, Inhumans are playing a part in shaping the direction of Marvel. For this reason, they act as an analog for new fans just discovering the joy of reading comics. Much as Inhumans must undergo Terrigenesis before their true form is revealed, new comic readers require a catalyst of sorts to enter the printed realm. I assert that the movies and TV shows based on comic book properties are the Terrigen Mist for new readers. Here's the irony of the situation. Many of the long-term fans feel threatened by the changes comics have been undergoing as their popularity in the general public increases. The most recognizable heroes from classic comics are mainly white men, so for each new movie or TV show that is announced, there is a new conversation regarding diversity of casting and gender equality, and Marvel is taking notice. The characters portrayed in the comics are becoming more representative of the world in which we live. We have a Sam Wilson Captain America, Jane Foster Thor, Riri Williams Invincible Iron Man, Kate Bishop Hawkeye, Nadia Pym Wasp, Amadeus Cho the Totally Awesome Hulk, and the aforementioned Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel, and Lunella Lafayette Moon Girl, all headlining their own books, and all of them are carrying a mantle once held by a white male. These are not the characters that long-term readers are comfortable with in these roles, and they might represent slightly different values than their predecessors. So for many, the transition has been uncomfortable, with many feeling as if a great injustice has been done to the characters and the books they love. These feelings have led fans to lash out at newer fans as well as creators on social media, much as the X-Men are striking at the Inhumans in a desperate attempt to preserve their way of life. My hope is as we move through Inhumans vs. X-Men, both the characters and readers will come to realize that there is plenty of room for all of us in the Marvel Universe. Well, I think I have rambled on long enough. I hope I have made some interesting points that could prompt further discussion. I will be following Inhumans vs. X-Men through to its conclusion and will keep you guys updated as the event progresses, and I will also be sending my reviews of the Thanos series. Until next time, make mine Marvel.
Oh, that was beautiful.
Yes.
I mean, that was just a fantastic letter there, Stockton. And here's what I was going to say. I'm listening to him talk, and I'm thinking, oh, there's the point I'm going to make. Here's the point I'm going to make. And then he goes and makes that point. It's, oh, okay, well, he made that point. Perfect. The only point that I was going to make that he did not was that, for all the talk about, oh, Marvel's making the, Inhumans the mutants because they don't have the rights to the mutants, where's the Inhuman movie? It just keeps on getting pushed back, and we just never get that. And it is in its own way kind of a hilarious aspect. But I think he's absolutely right that there is this. The reality is that fandoms do not like change.
No.
Fandoms do not like change, and that is painfully true. Whether it's Star Wars, whether it's Marvel, whether it's anything, the second you say, "Oh, where's this new way of looking at things?" people get upset, and to have this situation where Marvel has decided to bring in a bunch of new characters and a new way to tell a story, it scares these long-term fans, and I do think that there is that, and I do think there is that unreasoning quality that we see in the X-Men versus Inhumans storyline, where it is very much like, what exactly are the X-Men mad about?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I get that they're mad that there's a Terrigen cloud out there, but it's like, what exactly? Why are you mad at the Inhumans? They didn't. I mean, yes, they are responsible for it, but they didn't necessarily make it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. Those mutants, just when you think they calm down, someone else says, let's go kill some Inhumans.
Yeah, well, it's like, but I mean, and it's like, I don't understand the motivation behind it, because it's like, okay, it's kind of like, it's one thing to say, hey, Black Bolt really screwed things up here, but it's all other things to say, well, now we're just going to fight you.
Mm-hmm.
It's one thing. I'm not quite sure what their motivation of revenge is, even.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, it seems very similar to as Stockton pointed, this idea of these old line fans who are just mad that what their favorite thing was is no longer what the thing that's getting all the publicity is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a very telling quality here.
Yeah, but I mean, these characters are going to exist in some form. I mean, as we learned this week, Tony Stark's not dead. Steve Rogers, Clint Barton, they're all still alive.
Yeah, and we see more and more that who Steve Rogers was hasn't been changed as much as has been implied.
Mm-hmm.
We do see that the background is still there. And that goes to what I think the other point that Stockton made, which is that Marvel's not going to just end a good selling book just because.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to keep everything going because there is value in that, but there's also value in other things too. And what it is very much this idea that someone's coming into my world. I don't want for as much as this idea of the nerd feeling ostracized is, the reality is that nerds also like to ostracize other people from their nerdery. This is where the entire, oh, you're not really a nerd because you can't tell me, who you can't tell me who the villain of Fantastic Four #3 was.
Mm-hmm.
It's a miracle, by the way. The hypnotist.
Yeah.
Yes, because hypnotism, the most powerful power in the Marvel universe. But that's the thing. It's like there is this urge to try and be puritanical in nerdery, and to say, you don't belong here. Get out of my out of my nerd hole, because I only want what I want in here. This is my place this is my safe space. And the reality is you don't get a safe space. You should never ask for a safe space in art, because art is actually meant to challenge you. It's not meant to just be a wish fulfillment. It's meant to be, and this is the real truth, I think, of Marvel Comics in general, is that it's never meant to be a wish fulfillment. It's meant to make you ask hard questions.
Mm-hmm.
When Stan Lee decided, you know what, I want to make the next superhero this warmonger capitalist, the exact opposite of what the counterculture who is embracing my comics would like, and he becomes this, and they have, he's a union buster. He is a arrogant, I'm of course talking about Tony Stark. And in his early storylines, the Hydra is trying to unionize Stark's factories, and and it is this idea of him creating a character who is the antithesis of what the comfort zone of his readership was. Now I'm not going to say that Stan Lee, whose birthday was this week, yay!
Yeah, he's gonna make it out of 2016, yay!
Oh, don't jinx it! Don't jinx it! No, I do think he will be okay, because I do think that he is. Usually when it's an elderly death, it is someone who is kind of out of the picture for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
The guys that are still active tend to keep on for a little bit, but he is 94, so we are watching with bated breath. But he got featured in that People Over 90 who are still kicking it old school. Gotta double check to see if Debbie Reynolds was in that list from Hollywood Reporter.
Well,
but, yeah.
I was gonna say that segues into our next email, kind of.
Oh, okay, yeah. So what? Yeah, this is from Kenneth
Smyson.
Friend of the show.
He says, "Hello, Charlie and Phil. I hope your holidays are going well. Sadly, news the last couple days has not been easy for us. The passing of Carrie Fisher is tragic. Her place in pop culture and geek life helped blaze new trails for women, and she will be missed. Considering her work on movie scripts, do you know if she ever branched out in the comics? Also, were there characters in Marvel or DC inspired by her? On a lighter note, I'm eagerly awaiting the return of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. My fan theory, Jeffrey Mace is not an Inhuman. I have a suspicion that is a lie told by the powers that be, probably Ross, to help smooth over diplomacy with the Inhumans. If true, Mace is either in on the lie or is being lied to. If the latter is the case, he may have been put through a super soldier program while unconscious with evidence placed to make it look like he went through Terrigenesis. I think that would be very compelling for character development if true. After all, Patriot was not Inhuman in the comics. The Slingshot web series was fun, but honestly, the MCU character most deserving of a web series is Spider-Man. I kid. Here's to another great year of connections in the bag."
Yeah. Hey, I would watch web content of Spider-Man, and you know what? We will probably get web's content of Spider-Man. So don't be so kidding. There's a lot of backstory that you're going to be getting because Marvel likes putting up that little side web stuff because it's a great place to release little side things.
Mm-hmm.
As to Carrie Fisher's past, that is rough. As far as I don't think she ever wrote comics. I don't think she was ever desperate enough to have to write comic. Well, and I don't mean that to be cruel, but I am going to say, writing comics has only just recently, really gotten that cachet.
Mm-hmm.
By the time that it got that cachet, I don't think she was looking for work per se.
Mm-hmm.
I think she had enough side projects and had enough bank that she wasn't worried about it. Usually when you see sci-fi people go into that, they're usually, it's part of their larger branching into the writing universe. That's usually a first stop, not a stop for someone who was as established as she is. Now I could be wrong, and someone who can say, no, Carrie Fisher wrote X-Men number 472, then I will happily be mistaken. But as far as I know, she never wrote that. As far as characters inspired by her, well, I mean, the obvious character inspired by her was Princess Leia, which was a Marvel comic for many years and is again. Princess Leia, and of course, I think Princess Leia winds up. I mean, when you go into that 1970s space opera comics, anything having to do with, the Jim Starlin stuff and. You see a lot of Star Wars influence throughout it, and so I'm sure there are a lot of bits and pieces of Princess Leia throughout there. As of course to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., it's an interesting idea that he's not an Inhuman but a enhanced individual. Created through the old-fashioned way, with some super soldiering. That's interesting. That's an interesting take on it. The return episode, I believe, is actually titled "The Patriot," and Adrian Passar is it? No, it's not Passar. With Adrian
Pasdar.
Yeah, Pasdar. Yeah, the Talbot is coming back for that. So. We may be getting Jeffrey Mace's secret origin in that. Now, my theory has always been that he was the Patriot in the 50s and 40s, that he met Peggy Carter, that he was Peggy Carter's husband, and that he did age and become old, and then all of a sudden one day he took his liver pills and then became rejuvenated and empowered, was able to become the Patriot again, and that's how he got there. Now, what's interesting about the blurb they gave us for the episode called "The Patriot" is that it does suggest that whatever the big reveal is, the Patriot's dark secret, it's something that Phil doesn't know. Now, I would think Phil would know who the Patriot was if he was Peggy Carter's husband, if he was the Patriot in the 40s. So we're going to have to see exactly what they decide, So it is very interesting on that level, without a doubt. Uh, moving beyond that, here, just one second. Yeah, I mean, as far as what the Patriot storyline is going to be, what Jeff Mace's backstory is, we really don't know. We know he has these powers. We know that he is saying he is an Inhuman. We know that Phil thinks he's an Inhuman, which again is this idea that is there stuff Phil doesn't know. Now, to that extent, if this is the secret is that he's not an Inhuman. That could be what jeopardizes everything. But we also know that whatever really happened at the Zemo bombing that got Mace called a hero is something that is worth holding over his head as well. Because we know that what's her name? Henstridge. Simmons was holding that over him as well. Mm-hmm. So there is a lot going on here. There's a lot that we're coming back to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. for, and I think that is what has been really great about the season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I do think that, I think the move to 10 o'clock has been really helpful, even though it makes it very hard for me to stay up that late and tweet at them. But it has made for deeper and more complex stories. And I think more interesting stories as well. I think that now that they can really cut loose on at the 10 o'clock time outside of Family Hour, I think they can tell some really good S.H.I.E.L.D. stories. I think we're back to where S.H.I.E.L.D. was really always meant to be, because S.H.I.E.L.D. was always a very risque book. Back in its day. It was violent, it was risque. It was about the people who had to survive in the superhuman universe. In a universe with with the Hydra, with Captains America, and with gods falling out of the sky, and how do these basic humans find a way to maintain their heroism and also keep the world safe. So I'm really liking where it's going at, and I'm excited for it. I mean, I really don't know. I mean, I have my theory. But I really don't know if my theory is going to be correct. History says it will not be. Although I do really want to get Agent Carter back. And I think that makes a great backdoor for Agent Carter stories. Fingers crossed. Now, the other item that was in the news today, which I did want to speak to, and it kind of ties into some of the stuff we were talking about, was the rumor. And it was just a blatant rumor. There was no truth to it at all. That Deadpool was going to cameo in Logan. And everyone got really excited. Oh, Deadpool's going to be in Logan. Deadpool's going to be in Logan. And Hugh Jackman had to come out and say, I love Ryan. I love Deadpool as a character, but he's not in Logan. And then Ryan Reynolds had to come out when everyone was like, oh, why are they not letting Deadpool be in it? Deadpool should be in it. He's awesome. And Ryan Reynolds came out and said, look, I want to have a Wolverine Deadpool crossover more than anyone. Mm-hmm. But Logan is not the film for Deadpool. Logan is its own thing. Logan is a serious Johnny Cash scored trailer film, This isn't Suicide Squad. This isn't Guardians of the Galaxy. This is Johnny Cash, and that is not a place to have Deadpool cameo. Now, Logan could still cameo in the next Deadpool film, and that makes sense because it's easy for Wolverine to come into the comedy. Mm-hmm. It's much harder for the comedy to go into Wolverine, but people got mad when this bubble got burst. And I remember when I first heard someone saying, oh, Deadpool's going to be in, I was thinking, how is Deadpool going to be in Logan? That is going to just totally screw up the tone of the film. Because clearly the tone of the film is desperation and terror. Now, you can do Deadpool in that, place of pathos. You can have, because Deadpool does have that dark and twisted story. You could certainly put him in a story like that, but I think that's going to lose what people are looking for with Deadpool. People are looking for the lighthearted Deadpool, and I think that if you put him into Logan, he has to be the more serious Deadpool, and that's not what people are looking for.
Mhm.
But they get mad when they don't get their cookie.
Yeah.
People get mad if they think that they want a cookie and they don't get the cookie, and they go, "Where's my cookie?" And it's like, it's not cookie time; it's dinner time. Logan is dinner. Maybe we can have cookies after, and maybe Logan will be in the cookies. We'll have Logan cookies with Deadpool. That's fine. That's not what we're doing today. And but it goes back to this idea of this entitlement of fan culture, this belief that things will be as they want them, the way they want them, and will never change. And of course, that's not what art is. Art should always be changed. And this is one thing we've said about the Marvel Cinematic Universe, that what makes it good is that they do change the stories. Because that's what lets the stories be exciting and surprising to you, is that they do change. And if you didn't have them changing, if you didn't have them updating all the time, then you would know what was going to happen, and it would be a really, really boring story.
Mm-hmm.
So people want things to stay the same. They never do. Things have to change. The future comes anyway. It doesn't matter if you're prepared for it or you're not prepared for it. It doesn't matter if it's what you wanted or not what you wanted. It's here. And now you have to find what joy you can in the future we have. And if there was a better metaphor to end 2016 on, or to listen to as you come into 2017 when this airs, I can't think of it. How about you, Phil? Can you think of anything else to say on that?
No, that's excellently put.
Okay. Do you want to give our social medias and get out of here?
Sure, we had an extra long all-new Marvel round.
It's going to be long again next week. Marvel, stop. Because you know what's going to happen? Because I'm going to tell you right now, if Unbeatable Wasp or Unstoppable Wasp isn't super amazing on the shelf, I'm not even picking it up.
Oh.
And I really wanted to get it. I like the Russian Wasp, I thought it was cool. Another girl genius. Although, not for another, we're getting kind of crowded with girl geniuses lately.
Mm-hmm.
Now, granted, we started with boy geniuses. Although they were all more older, established boy geniuses. All the young girl geniuses are all like 16 now, and I don't quite understand that. Why can't we have a nice 40-year-old, or even like a 23-year-old genius lady? Why do they all have to be teenagers? I don't know. We'll get to that later.
The only thing I can think of is just maybe of them before.
Yeah, I'm guessing that's the idea. Although actually, as I once wrote a sketch about why there were so few female superheroes, because they actually followed proper laboratory procedures and didn't have accidents that gave them superpowers. And it's just all about, it was this idea that, basically because they just followed proper lab procedures, because it's like, well, no, yeah, you might get superpowers, but more likely you're going to die horribly if in the lab explosion, and the men just, no, we're just going to throw it all together, see what happens. And, yeah. But, I guess now maybe that's why they have to be teenage girls, because they're going to have these lab accidents. If they're going to do something stupid like put on a costume, they probably have to be teenagers. Fiona Fitzhugh, the grad student, she's not putting on a costume, even though she's adventuring with superheroes. She's like, I'm just going to wear my lab coat and sort things out. My favorite female genius in the Marvel Universe, Fiona Fitzhugh. She is the Reed Richards Scholar currently at Empire State University, or at least was during the Marvel Apes crossover. So, yay, Fiona. I have all these obscure characters that if I ever get to write, they're just going to be everywhere. It's like Fiona and Boulder. I'm going to have just this super team of people like, who are these new characters? Who are these people? Like, no, these are all established characters. They have a long and glorious history. For a couple issues, and then I want to bring them back because I love them. Okay, Phil. So, social media, yeah, that's what we're going to do. Phil, how can people reach out to you to talk to you about the joys of Marvel Comics and DC Comics, for that matter?
That's right. If you want to discuss anything Marvel or DC, you can email me, nightwingpdp@gmail.com. On Twitter, I am at nightwingpdp. But also make sure to follow Superconnectivity on Facebook. It's facebook.com/Superconnectivity Podcast. And on Twitter, it's at SuperConnectPod.
Yes. And, of course, you can always write to me in that old-fashioned email way, the way our Maz and Paz once did, at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, @gmail.com. And, of course, follow me on the Twitters as I live tweet Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and The Incredible Hulk, 7 o'clock on Saturdays on MeTV, and Legends of Tomorrow for the podcast of tomorrow with Zachary Hare. Is it Hare? It's Hare, yeah. I always want to call him Zachary O'Hare, but he's not an O'Hare. I don't know. Over on the Legends of DC channel, feel free to pop over and give a listen. And follow me on Twitter at Charlie Esser. That's CharlieEssser. Look for the count them 2 E's right there in the middle for quality. Thank you for connecting with us once again, ladies and gentlemen. Please connect with us again. Good night.
Happy 2017.
Happy 2017. Happy New Year, one and all.